on hold for the update.
Well, at least they're now, like.
It's interesting, cause like, yeah, I don't know.
No,
Super connected.
no, Doug doesn't go to that one. Don't know where Doug
I know my
is.
sister-in-law.
Okay. Anyway, your neighbors, right?
My neighbors, yeah, my direct neighbors.
Yeah.
And I know that the Democratic precinct representative that lives down the street, but I haven't even met him yet.
Okay, I don't know who that is, but.
But
You know, well, I mean, one of the things that I've done, on my blog, and I got to meet. You're not on the street that goes, that people zoom up and down, right? You're on like a regular side street.
there is Yale. Right now, right. I am just. Sleep on the side. I'm taking sleep on. Because I'm, like I said, running off.
May, District One breakfast. It's crazy that we're in May already. Very exciting. Today we have some great speakers, additional presentation, that we'll get to, and then any updates. There was some big news recently, so I'll talk about that at the end as well. But when it gets started, and bring up Trio, to talk about what they do and what.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me out. Like I mentioned, I'm with the Trio Educational Opportunity Center. My name is Travis Finney, and I'm the director of the Educational Opportunity Center. Educational Opportunity Center is a mouthful, so I'm going to say EOC from now on. But the EOC, we're housed over here at Wichita State University. We don't recruit for Wichita State University, but we help adults 19 and over get into education, whatever kind of education they want. Get that, our mission statement, pursue the education that they want. So whether that means bachelor's degree, awesome. If it's an associate's degree, cool. If it's a technical certificate, if it's a welding, heating and air, beauty school, whatever, we're just trying to help people get level up their skill set. So we help people locate programs. We also do GED, high school diploma. So if people haven't quite got that yet, we can help them find a program, help them get through that, take their GED, study for their GED, pass that, and then hopefully get into post-secondary school. We do FAFSA counseling, student loan default, financial aid verification, scholarship searches, more here. And then find a school that they want to go to. And so sometimes it's Wichita State, that's great. Sometimes it's any other school in the area or outside the area. We're just trying to help people get into a post-secondary school, help them build their resume, help them build their confidence, help them build their skill set so that they can be more employable, raise their income, and help the community. So to us and they say, Travis, I don't know what I want to do with my life, you know, which a lot of people are like that. We can do interest assessments, career advising, career exploration. We have some cool programs where they can come in and do a job shadow program online, where they just kind of watch a day in the life of this career or that career is. And if it's something that they're interested in, we'll help them find a program of study and we'll help them get enrolled. We'll help them find the funding to do that. So we target anybody over 19 in the county area, generally low income first generation students, but we do have some spots for just about anybody. And so if you want more information about our programs, our website is wichita.edu/EOC. You can call us at 978-7800. You can email us at eoc.program@wichita.edu. We have a very short application process. Takes about 2 minutes to fill that out. We are a federally funded program, so we do have to maintain some records of who we serve and that type of thing. But if anybody wants any more information, I'll be right over here. I did bring some brochures. I apologize. I should have brought a few more materials, but the university in their infinite wisdom is moving us out of Brennan Hall and into Grace Wilkie Hall. So most of my office is in our box right now. So, but I do have a handful of brochures and business cards over here if anybody's interested in anything else.
So you'll stay to the end of the meeting, because I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Have a question?
So how are you guys funded?
Through the Department of Education.
Yeah.
Are you sure you're still funded?
I am still funded through the end of August 2026. And the TRIO programs, they've been around for 60 years. Before I did this, I worked for the Upward Bound program, which is for high school students. It's been on campus for 60 years. The EOC program has been here for 30. We've we've went through some challenges over those years, as you could imagine, and pretty much every administration that comes through has their own ideas and their own programs and their own, ways that they want to fund it, but trio programs persevere, so I'm confident we'll be around for a few more. But, you know, if you want to email your congressman and senator and tell them the trio programs in your community are out here working, feel free to do that too.
I know a little bit about Trio, it's not to be dangerous, but anyway, so Trio, I'm pretty sure was funded under a grant, it's just, and they participate statewide, is that right?
The grant is statewide, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, under the program, your grant, you administer statewide, like Junction City, Kansas City, and some other places.
Not, so there are different trio programs, and I think what you're maybe referring to is the Gear Up program. We do have a Gear Up program that's statewide. Trio, we're funded to serve Sedgwick County. So there are other trio programs. There's two up at KU that serve the Northeast. There's one at Barton County Community College that serves.
But you just service Wichita and surrounding communities?
We're funded to serve Sedgwick County. And as long as we don't step on any other trio or EOC programs toes, we can go outside that. But our grant says Sedgwick County.
But I was just a little concerned here, because, you know, I know you guys have been around for a number of years, you know, 4+ years, and you get the grants. And so I know they service Wichita and surrounding areas. And so you're located right there, Wichita State University, have been for years. And so what I look back is for how you're reaching out to the community. You got a lot of service, you got a lot of neighborhoods butt up against there, and a lot of them are in low income areas, Fairmount, across the street over there. You really got some excellent programs and stuff over there, and facilities and computer stuff. I don't see the involvement, participation coming out of surrounding neighborhoods. The trio dropped out quite a bit. Most times, in my first generation, most of those people, the kids that come there, their parents in those surrounding neighborhoods have a high school less education right next door to a college. And you have tutors, veteran service, you got a lot of things that offer under here, but I don't see the surrounding communities really tapping into that. Are you tapping into the community? How are you gonna fix that?
Well, we're trying. For when I was with Leopard Bound, we were in the high schools, right? Students where we were serving were in the high school, so we were there. I've been at EOC for less than a year right now. But I understand, because when I took over, we really weren't out here. And I can't speak for the previous director. I can speak for myself. I started end of June, started July last year. And so since then, we've been at Urban League, we're at Colvin Community Center, we're at Evergreen Community Center. We're in the DCF building. Where else? We're trying to start some services out of this building too as well. So we'll be here. We'll be over at Lynette Woodard tomorrow afternoon with the basketball game. You'll see us there. So we're trying, and I understand the concern, and it was my concern as well when I over last year. But we're trying to rebuild some of those things. I know probably 10, 15 years ago, they were doing this type of work more out in the communities, and for whatever reason, people before me, and of course COVID happened, and people kind of retreated into their offices and didn't get back out much. But I'm trying, man. I'm trying. So here we are.
I will get you there.
But if you have any ideas where I should be, let me know and I will come. Like that has been my mission since I took over last year, was if you want our people to come to your community, to your church, to your school, to your
Yeah, you know, your outreach, I'm just telling you in the past here, most times you send out to the schools, to the counselors, information required, asking that they can send some of their students over there to get information on it, an application and apply. And so most of these counselors, they send you, they're star pupils most of the time here. These are the guys who are in this organization, got this kind of GPA doing this. They don't send you Johnny Bad.
Well, I'll push back on that a little bit. When I did Upper Bound for 30 years, we took all kinds of students. I we took all kinds, so, I
You know-
would respectfully disagree with that statement.
You know, me and Upper Bound, they've been around for a lot of years. I don't think it's functioning as well as it used to, but when they did reach out to the public, to the university kids, they said, well, hey, come on the campus, spend the weekend or summer on the campus. And that was good. And people sent them here because they got a babysitter and somebody else to do this thing. But I'm saying here, you have to see some return on the investment of what you're doing. Those kids that come up Upward Bound and some of those things as well, there should be a natural connection or connected thing with being right there in the university.
And Upward Bound is still doing the summer camp at the university. We brought 50, 55, 60 high school students on the campus every summer. Still do. And they live in the residence halls for a month. I get that experience, so.
Know about those kids and families they come from. And here again, that's why I push back, because most of those get the information and the availability of their parents. The parents of those kids, those kids were gonna be okay anyway in there. So, but it's the ones who really need it.
Well, we serve low income students, well, at Upper Bound and at the USC, we serve low income students. We verify this. So, I push back a little bit that they were, there's not a lot of high income.
Do we have any more questions regarding the EOC program? Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
EOC, I guess we'll hear about. You'll hear about that one in a minute. Always love having Reggie come out. Reggie is our, I think I said it the last time, our new Park and Rec director officially. So he is the guy, and he has a special guest with him. I won't take your thunder on that. But I want to bring out Reggie, our director of Parks and Rec.
Good morning, everyone. Always good to come out and have an opportunity to kind of share some of the things that we're doing moving forward with the park system. One of the big things that we have that's coming up now is that we're in the process of getting ready to do our park comprehensive master plan. So we have an RFP that's out now, that is due on the 23rd of this month. We're gonna have a consultant that comes in and look at our entire system, give us some input on what it looks like, what amenities we have here, and how we can best serve the community moving forward with our programs, services, and the staff that we have with offering those programs to the community. A big piece of that is going to be a community engagement portion of it. We're going to work with the DABs, the council members, and getting out in the community so that we can get feedback from you all on what you want to see in our park system as we move forward, so that we can align with the investments we put into the system with the service that you guys want to see offered in the community. So once we get further along with that, we'll be getting some more information out to make sure that you guys can be involved in that process and give us feedback. And this is a great opportunity for you to say, this is what our park system is look like moving forward. And typically, this is something that puts us out 10 to 15 years, so that we know the direction that we're going in, that you make investments and put in new amenities as well as maintain the amenities that we have, so that they can be in the best condition for the community to enjoy. So we kind of transition there, wanted to speak specifically about some other things that are in District 1 that has a lot of impact as well. Any initial questions about the park master plan? We're more than happy to answer that as well.
Are you going out and meeting with people, or this is just all online?
So we're planning to have some actual community engagement opportunities where we're going to actually go out in the community, and the consultant leads that, so we can get feedback from people on what they actually want to see, have some dialogue, getting information from them, so that we can compile that information and determine how we move forward with the system. So I'll transition. I'm sure you guys have probably heard some things that are happening right now with our youth football league in the community. Last year, we started partnering with USB 259, and we're using their fields for our youth football games. This year, we're transitioning where we're actually going to have those youth football teams will actually feed into the high schools that are there, that the kids are actually scheduled to attend when they get there. So part of our process with that is we want to keep young people engaged, involved, and doing things positive. So when they leave our youth football program and go into high school, they're academically ready. They are learning the good fundamentals that we actually need for them to be successful in being in the program. and they learn to play the game the right way, and we prevent a lot of injuries. And as part of that, I'm gonna give Councilman Johnson kudos here, is we're going to council on Tuesday with some of the remaining high funds that were available. We're looking at how we can use some of those dollars to actually pay for the first 400 kids that register in the program where they will actually register for free. That would include their registration fee as well as their uniforms, and they would be required to pay a $25 deposit to reserve their spot on the actual rosters, and then that will be credited towards equipment that they will actually use for them to play in the league. And it's kind of twofold. We wanted to make sure that we kind of reduce some of the barriers for those young people who couldn't afford to pay for the position. And also, one of the things we recognize is that we had Johnny playing, wearing Timmy's uniform at 3 or 4 years old because that's what the family had in there, and it wasn't safe, it wasn't certified, and we're trying to prevent injuries. Concussions is a really big thing right now with youth sports, and we're trying to be as proactive as we can to try to prevent that from happening. We're making sure the kids have good quality equipment. And as part of our partnership, we're working with Play It Again Sports up here in the community, and they offer pre-owned and certified used equipment. So those young people who may not be able to afford to purchase new equipment can actually buy certified equipment that will be safe for them. And at the end of the season, they can return that equipment back there and then have it as a credit for the next year, so that they don't have equipment that may have not worked for them. They go over the year. And another piece of that, part of that funding is McAfee Pool that's over here at McAdams Park. We're using some of those dollars. Every Saturday will be free swim days for anyone under the 18 years old and younger. So they can come and actually swim at no cost at the pool every Saturday. And then the following year, we're gonna have it every other Saturday that we use those remaining of those funds. We're also partnering with American Red Cross with their centennial program we started last year, where they have funding where they pay for young people to learn to swim. So they have scholarships that are available on swim lessons for $40 for the swim lesson. It covers $35 of that cost for them to actually do it. So it's $5 that they pay and they can take those swim lessons. And it's kind of on purpose so that they would have an investment in it so they wouldn't sign up and not show up. So if they pay the $5, mom and dad is going to make sure that they show up and commit to attending those lessons. And part of that was because they do statistics to see where there's higher drowning rates and people who don't have an opportunity to learn how to swim. And 67214 is one of those areas that had a high drowning rate. People didn't have the opportunity to learn how to swim. So here in this area, as well as Ailey, Manissa, as well as Orchard, 4 swimming pools that qualify for us to be able to offer free swim lessons during the summer for.
Which ones?
It's McAfee here at Brewer, Ailey, Manissa, and Orchard. So any of those pools, person can learn how to swim with just that $5 fee toward the swim lessons. That's $40.
Is it $5 a day or $5 one time?
$5 one time.
Okay.
So the session is a $40 session. They pay $5 and that's secure the spot to be able to. So kind of lastly, going to transition, because I'm sure you guys have seen all the work that's taking place over at McAdams Park with community center. So we're real excited about that. We're on target now that probably early to mid-September is when we're going to have that completely finished and being able to occupy for us to start offering programs. One of the things that that Councilman Johnson was intentional about as we were doing that planning, that we didn't just want it to be a rec center. We wanted it to be an opportunity center where people could come in and learn a skill or learn a trade or be able to do something that could help them have a different path in life if they choose to. So the center is going to have a full-size commercial kitchen that's there on site. So we're going to partner with USD 259. They're calling their arts program where kids can actually learn in the school day and then come over at the rec center and actually apply that. And when we have events and things that are there, give them an opportunity to participate in those events. We're also working with WSU Tech, WSU, looking at STEM and STEAM programs that we can actually have there with it. Looking at studios where people can actually learn to do podcasts and other things that are popular for young people, give them something that they can do to be active and engaged and out of trouble. And I'm sure you guys know that we recently went out to hire a new director. And I'm pleased to say that we did bring someone on board. I'm going to introduce her today. Mrs. Lisa Cardi Harrison is going to be the new director at Brewer. And I want to give you guys kind of a background on her. She's been here in Wichita with us now almost 5 years. 5.5 years. She spent 18 years in the Los Angeles area there, working with a lot of different diverse populations, offering a good quality program that was there. In the last 5 years, she's been working in the Plainview Colvin area that's there doing a lot of good work. So we went with a national search and we had over 60 people from 12 states that applied for the position. And we narrowed it down to the top 9 and we interviewed the top 3. And she was by far the best person that we had for the position. Councilman Johnson was involved in that interview process as well. And I feel real confident that we have the person that's going to help us move forward and do the things that we need to do, not just be a community center, but make an impact in the community, and give people in the community something that they can do to stay engaged and involved. So we'll put her on the spot here to come up and say a few words.
Hi, how is everybody this morning?
Okay.
I'm very excited to be the new director over at Brewer, but I think I'm most excited just to get to know all of you, right? The folks who are there in the community and what you're looking for in that center, right? So obviously we want to make sure that we are leading with the history, right? And the legacy of not only Brewer, but McAdams and all the folks that are, you know, encompassed in the McAdams Park itself. Provide quality programs, just as Reggie said, but offer different types of opportunities, recreation, services and resources, right? So when it comes to that master plan conversation and getting that programming initiated into Brewer itself and starting up, hopefully in that mid-September timeframe, you know, that we're implementing programs that are needed, that are wanted, and that are provide a resource for the community there in the neighborhood. So I'm happy to have any conversations with folks. I will definitely be a part of those community engagement meetings and whatnot, but very excited for the opportunity, very excited to meet all of you, very excited to bring my passion and whatnot to Brewer Community Center. Like Reggie said, I've been in Park and Rec now for almost 24 years. Did not start out as a career path, but once I started in Park and Rec, I moved back. So excited to bring my knowledge and experience, but mostly excited to hear from you and what it is that you're looking for in that center. So, any questions?
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Any questions or anything that you guys have?
I have a follow-up question on the football thing. So then, does this mean then that there aren't gonna be all these car wash fundraisings for the football programs?
That's our goal.
Okay,
And
that's
that's one of the things that we realize. We want the young people to be concentrating on learning the sport, have an opportunity to have a good experience, and learning those core values that they can carry into life with teamwork, building, and not standing on the corner shaking cans to raise money. So hopefully we can actually do that with some of this transition where that's not something, because we realize it's a safety issue as well, because young people are out in cars and things are passing by. So we've addressed some of that as well to try to deter people from doing it.
I mean, I always try to support it, but I'm glad that there won't be that kind of pressure. But the $25 towards their equipment, is that gonna get them what they need for
So-
equipment?
That's a portion of what they need. Some of them already have some equipment.
Yeah.
But the good thing about it, we're working with Player Against Sports. They have the option to be able, if they have existing equipment that doesn't work for them, they can trade it in, they get other equipment. So it gives them more options compared to just having to pay for brand new equipment.
Yeah. What's it cost typically for a kid to get outfitted to play football?
So our uniform fee is $65. That covers the jersey, the pants that goes along with it. If you're looking at a helmet, a shoulder pads that goes along with it, you're probably looking at an additional $250. It could be depending on what you're getting with brand new equipment. But once you look at opportunities for pre-owned equipment, it almost cut that cost in half. So it gives those families some opportunities that they can get it for a whole lot less.
Still a lot of money.
What age group exactly will this encompass?
So we would actually be starting through our first through 8th grade. So the first through 6th will be the volunteer coaches that are there in the community currently that will be involved with it. 7 and 8 as part of that transition. She was USD 259. They've invested in paying their coaches to actually coach those programs. So we will actually have USD 259 coaches that are working in the middle school program and then mentoring those ones from first to sixth grade so that they know those systems. And they're able to look at what the academic challenge was. And I know Councilman Johnson and I talked a lot about one of the things that we saw that because there was a disconnect between the school and parks program, a kid can not do well in school all the week, and then on Saturday they're playing and they're a superstar on the field. We're trying to eliminate it. We want to hold them accountable that you're going to do well in school, and we're going to give them a good foundation to do. And if you don't, you may not play.
That's what I was concerned about, the oversight, because you said there'll still be the volunteers for like first grade through sixth grade.
Yes, so part of that process is those coaches who are the paid coaches that were in seventh and eighth grade will be involved in the screening process with who those coaches are that would actually be coaching those programs. We realize that we have some people that may not have been the best examples that
Okay,
we want in front of our kids.
there's a lot of personality conflicts and clashes. Okay, so,
I have probably 3 questions for you. Number one, the cutting of the grass in the parks. When the mowers are mowing, if there's anything in it, they run right over. it. Couldn't they pick up some of that trash that they're cutting into the ground?
They should be. We have kind of 2 different options on mowing. We have our team that's internally that mows, and then we have contractors that mow some of our spaces as well. But part of that contract is that they should be picking up trash that they see in the area. If there's locations that that's not happening, let us know. We'll make sure
I
that's.
certainly will. And another thing, the use of the shelters.
Yes.
We always use Chisholm Creek Park, for picnics and things like that. And now we can't use them. I don't know why. When are you going to open those back up again for use by the public for community gatherings?
So the challenge that we had with those was that we would clean the shelters and have them available for people to come in and use them. And individuals may come in and not be in the condition that you wanted once you come in. So instead of us continuing to rent it out and have it there on a first come, first served basis where people can actually use it, because if you're paying for it, you're expected to be at the condition it should be once you get there. And that's a challenge for us because we have some of our unhoused communities that may be there and they are using the space and it's not in the condition we would like for it once we actually have the full rentals. But the spaces should still be available. It's just that it's on first come, first served.
Okay, now, my final question, K-96, that lake up there for fishing. I don't know if this is you or the state or who's gonna do this. That water's contaminated in certain spots. Do you guys monitor that to see eating 8 ounces of fish a month or weeks, not very much? Has anything been done? I was told it's a new sign up there. I haven't seen it yet. Saying you can eat 8 ounces of fish a month or something.
It is signage that's up there that's listed in the area that specifies that particular amount because of that concern that's there. And if it's not visible where you guys can see it there, let us know. We'll make sure that it is, but it should be signage up there specified.
Okay, but you do monitor that lake for cleaning.
The lake is monitored. We have signage that's up there that said that that's the limits that you actually have for once you fish in it.
What do you call that lake? Horseshoe is what I've heard.
Yes, it's a specific name for it. It's K-96.
K-96, it was no K-96 then. That's where my husband grew up fishing.
There was a conversation about changing the name at one point, but I stayed out of that.
Think you have a question?
Yeah, on back to the football, if the kids have struggle with academics, but they're on the football team, is 259 or the football team coaches, or they're gonna be community members or teachers that will be tutoring them to help them get up to par? So
That's
they
part
can
of-
play?
Yes, that's part of the process is that we're trying to look at ways that we can kind of bridge the gap between the two. So with the coaches being involved with the school district, they can see who those young people are. We don't want to punish kids that are or just traditionally need some help and support to be able to do what they need to do. But if someone that's intentionally doing things that they shouldn't and not representing well, we want to address that. And if they need support, we want to be able to get them the support that they need to be successful.
Okay, so I didn't understand. So you'll be all communicating and there'll be some kind of academic support for the students?
There will be with us being able to partner with the school district and having access to who those kids are. They will be able to check and see if there's things that they need support with and communicate with the teachers and also have those coaches to be able to help reinforce that they need to get those things done to be successful in the classroom.
Thank you. To follow up on that, being able to and actually doing could be two different things. So how will that be monitored so that it's compliant? Because some of this stuff, even with the younger kids, I mean, this stuff has been entrenched for ages, right? And it's not gonna change easily without oversight and compliance. So how is that gonna be monitored and measured? And people held accountable, these coaches, to what they're supposed to be doing?
Sure. So it's not gonna change overnight, and that's one of the things that we realized when we put in the framework in to be able to start moving in that direction. Year one, it may not happen, but we're gonna be open the line of communication so that we know that when those young people need support, we know about it. Before we had none. And this will be able to at least open up the lines of communication so we can start getting the support that they need with it.
No, I'm sorry if they tell you, you know, and this whole won't change overnight. When it comes to the city, it sounds like I get so frustrated because it feels like things don't change over 5 years, you know? So I just want to encourage you, like compliance and enforcement. Otherwise, it's the same old thing with a different.
I can assure you that it's not gonna be the same old thing with a different name. We're gonna be intentional in making sure that we put the young people in the best situation to be successful. And that's part of what we're doing with the transition because we realize it was a problem and we wish to address it. Yes.
Well, I have a question about McAdams Park. Sometimes I walk the perimeter of it, and on the east side that goes along with the bike path and the walk path. Well, I think the sidewalks on that side are bad.
Yeah.
And you can easily trip over them. And then also, what I think also needs to happen is on the side that's closer to 13th, I think they need to make a sidewalk that cuts across so you don't have to walk across, if you want to do the perimeter, walk across the intersection of people getting off the highway and every day. So I'm just saying to consider that we're getting a new community center, recreation center, so maybe that might be in.
My card, because of that, we work directly with our public works department to kind of manage the sidewalk and the trails that are there near it. And that's something that we can put on our list to look at as part of our capital improvement project.
Yeah, not only that, they don't even have a little light that says cross or anything like that. You just have to make sure you're looking really, really good before you cross that.
So to add to that, there are meetings that will be set up for the next 15 to 20 years.
20.
So I'm getting to why though. So they're gonna rebuild 135.
On 13th Street?
They're gonna rebuild 135. It's gonna happen in the next 15 to 20 years. And I encourage them to start meeting with the neighborhood. The reason it's 15 to 20 years is it's reaching the end of its life and they're starting to plan now. So what they're gonna.
64 now.
But I'm telling you, it's good to talk about that at the beginning because I brought up that intersection, 135. So as those meetings begin, and I'm thinking it'll be probably next year when that starts, make sure you say that. I've talked about that, but you might could say specifically, there's no light here or anything like that. I've talked about the traffic issues going east and west and the median that's there, because I've had a lot of complaints about that, but any specifics when those come up, I've told them to talk to every neighborhood along that path. And they've all agreed to, so whoever wins that contract will be reaching out at some point, so make sure you bring that up.
That's the reason why I said have sidewalk cut across, because then you could make a full square and everything and not even cross that and get over on the other side. But if you want to go on the other side, it definitely needs a crosswalk. So send you what?
Just submit an email on the areas that
Okay.
you are concerned with, and we can make sure that's in when we're planning to know
But
that's.
sidewalks are dangerous, I can tell you that on that side.
Brandon,
Brandon?
when you start setting those up, would you like Kent Rowe to come to talk about air quality? Because that is a problem along.
I probably will not be in office, but yes, he should be.
He should be. How will we find out? Because we are kind of nearby, but not right on.
I gave them your neighborhood as well. They're gonna reach out directly. I showed them how to find it on the website. They'll be reaching out directly to me with everything.
Okay, the ones that have it fall within them or the ones that are
So
next to
they're
it?
going out pretty far. I think they're
Okay.
going out to Hillside, so they
Okay.
can talk to everybody.
Okay, that'll include us. Okay.
It's got twofold, a little bit for Brandon too, but, so the, Carl Rural Center in here, you're putting a lot of stuff in there, training and culinary and all of these things of nature here, so, you and your location is probably Atwater. Really, you're probably the closest thing we have to a cultural center. It talks about the neighborhood and communities around there and the people who live close by in those areas and stuff. So you really want to encourage people to come, participate and do those things, utilize the facilities. So all those things that you're proposing in here, putting in here, or use of this in here, what do the fees look like?
So we're still working through that. One of the things that we always try to do is make sure that it is something that is not cost prohibitive for the community. So when we look at some of the rates that we charge for some of our programs compared to some of the ones in the community, sometimes they're half the cost. And that's intentional because we want to make sure it's accessible for the community. So I'll give an example for our basketball rental fees that we have for a gym rental. It's $50 for 2 hours. And some of the other locations in the community is $125. So it's, we intend to have some of those fees that are
Play basketball.
less, so that it's affordable for the community to be able to enjoy it, because we know that. And one of the things that we implemented last year as well is that we started a non-resident fee. So there's a different fee for those who are citizens compared to those who are outside of the area. So that gives us an opportunity for those who aren't part of the tax bases here in the community that's contributing to those. They pay a little bit different fee than what we do for those who are in the community.
So you're talking about somebody that comes from out of town and tries to use it?
So if they're not in the Wichita city limits, that has a Wichita address and their surrounding community that comes in, there's a different fee that there for the services that they use.
Do you still do the park shelters for free for neighborhood association meetings?
We typically do for those when they are free events that are there for it. And we also have access to the rec centers when they're using it during the time frame that the center is open. So there's not an additional cost for us to have staff that's there. When it's outside of the hours, then there's a fee for it because we have to have staff.
We meet at 7 p.m., so that would be after.
And it would qualify for the 25% nonprofit discount. That's what.
So the community or what were you saying?
Park shelters.
Park shelters are free for neighborhood associations?
If you're looking at those shelters for community events that are there for the neighborhood association, typically those costs are free. When there's fundraisers and things like that, that's there, of course, we charge a fee for the use of it, but our neighborhood associations typically have access to them.
Okay, I have a couple questions can you tell me your name, please? Brewer.
Oh, Elisa.
Elisa,
Yes.
thank you.
Uh-huh.
So the bridge at 15th, is it 15th, that's the sidewalks shut down? They were gonna do away with that bridge at some point. Do you know when that will be?
This fall.
Huh?
This fall,
Well, so that whole inner street will be shut off,
yes. That's gonna be a pedestrian.
pedestrian bridge, okay. So then the curb around the pool to that, will that be just the same or parking lot or?
There's an additional section of walk trail that will be added since that's cut off. And I can't remember if we took out part of the street to try to loop around. Didn't have enough funding for the full loop around that I wanted, but it will cut off at some point. You'll have a walk trail there that connects back to what's under the bridge and the other trails.
Okay, thank you. Also, who is responsible for cleaning what she brought up earlier, the bike paths adjacent to the sidewalk to the park? Because I walk those paths also, and the tree limbs, the trash, it's really dangerous, and they're really broken up. Oh,
We have two divisions in our park maintenance crew. One is our forestry crew that maintains all the trees in the tree canopy and does all of the pruning and cleaning the trees that are around. If there's trees that are down, that's who we would contact. And we have a park maintenance crew that actually does the mowing and repairs in the park and monitors the playground. So you can actually go to the See, Click, and Fix on the city's website and report it, and it will actually send it to the appropriate person that will come out and address it.
Okay, thank you. Also, back to the Brewer Center, Elisa. What other activities will there be at the Brewer Center?
So we're looking at compiling a lot of different ones, right? So I'm in recreation for 24 years, so I do believe that recreation is important to kids and important to families and communities. So there is that recreation component, right? Having open gym time after school so that kids have a place to go. They're off the streets, right? They can come in and play games and whatnot in the lobby or go play basketball in the gym. And then recreation classes. So we're looking at family engagement classes, classes for teens, classes for adults, classes for older adults. We're looking at child development classes. So tiny tots, kinder tots, right? Prepping young kiddos for kindergarten and pre-K as well. And then we're talking about those specialty classes. So we're looking at the culinary arts, we're looking at the STEAM and the STEM programming as well. Reggie mentioned a bit about, podcasts and opportunities for kids to, learn how to put themselves on YouTube and engage with community in different ways and whatnot. But also we're looking at, things that are big right now. So esports is really huge. I am not your esports person. I would not pretend to be, but we're talking about getting somebody in there who knows that program really well and who can instruct that, right? Who can teach young people how to play esports. You can go to college on a full ride for esports. It's huge right now. If we're playing Super Mario Brothers, I'm in. But if beyond that, I have no idea what kids are doing. Drone soccer is also really big. So with the additional
What's drone soccer?
it is literally like flying drones and playing soccer in the air. They do them in the gym. And it's huge right now and kids love it, and what's nice about that is that when you utilize, I know a little bit, right? When you utilize drones outside, depending on the size of them, you have to have specific licenses for those, because if they reach a certain height, it goes into the flight and FFA, right? But if you're doing it indoors, right, you don't have those kind of limitations or licensing that's required. So you can have programs where kiddos are doing drone soccer indoors. A part of the additional build, it's going to be a double gym space. It is beautiful from the renderings, but I've been able to go on site during the construction and whatnot and get to kind of see the process of everything. It's going to be a great space for those as well. We want to look at bringing team programming to Brewer, right? Getting, again, kiddos off the streets and into the rec centers. I'm a huge advocate for mentoring and leadership programs. Park and Rec got a grant through the National Park and Recreation Association 2 years ago to implement a youth mentorship / leadership program that got started this year. And we're looking at having that twice a year in the spring and in the fall. So moving some of those programmings, right now it's housed at City Hall because, as Reggie mentioned, I'm at Colvin. So the only space that we have at Colvin running our programs is I have an office in the resource center, and then I utilize space in the school itself. So not being able to have a center that we can program, right, spaces and whatnot, makes that difficult there. But being able to bring those programs and whatnot to Brewer, right, like we're able to program a lot more in that space and capacity. We want community engagement programs there. So whether it's meetings or rental spaces, or I know that there's an influx of church groups and whatnot that did utilize Brewer prior to its renovations. That space is going to be there in a much bigger and more space, right? So we're trying to accommodate not only the rec component of recreation, right, allowing kids just to play, and those recreation classes, but also putting in some specialty classes and whatnot that allow people to thrive, right? Not only as individuals, but as family and community.
We're going from 10,000 square feet facility to over 30,000 square feet. So
Oh,
it's gonna be
okay.
a significant increase in size that we'll have to be able to use for programming and access.
So there'll be community rooms for communities to meet.
Absolutely.
Okay, also, then what
No
happens?
fees.
Huh?
We get charged for every place we'd like to meet except right here. I don't know, it might be a fee here. But
What?
library and I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
But somewhere within these communities where you reside here, you need to have a common place, a meeting place that encourages the conversation, the communication, and it helps you to gather information. more so from the surrounding areas, instead of having to go out and try to hit and miss, and catch all those things in here, but, somewhere there should be some way of funding some of this stuff, and maybe, Councilman Johnson can help with some of that, help me out here.
Yeah, we can use this room for free right now.
So, so when I talk about neighborhood meetings, a lot of them in here, they struggle with having a space, a place to go. I mean, whether it's the library or all the stuff that we put in the community, there's always fees and things that are attached to them. But so there's no real common places except churches, and then, that gets to be a squat
And this building,
in this building.
Evergreen, our city spaces are free like that.
And
So we
so,
do have opportunities in the, we mentioned earlier, if it's during the time frame that we have staff that's there on site and it's a nonprofit group that's coming in to meet, they can use space based on availability during the time the staff is there.
and so I don't know why more of our neighborhood associations don't have meetings in this place. Maybe it's the hours, I don't know if it's open, because most time our hours we meet is after 6 or 7 o'clock.
We've been accommodating 2 neighborhoods, met here and their meeting started at 5:30 and went to 7, one started at 6.
And so maybe that's something that needs to be gotten out. Right now, I know Fairmount neighborhood, they struggle to find a place to meet. We meet at the church, we're in Northeast Heights. I don't know, I'm not sure where Malaria and some of those others that all border around here meet, but sometimes there needs to be some common places, things of nature. Like I said, you're about as close to the cultural center as we're gonna get. So that was just a thing to think about in
The
here.
door will be open, 8 AM to 8 PM.
Monday through Friday. Yeah, Monday, and then Saturday and Sunday, it's gonna be, Saturday is 10 to 5 is what we're looking at, and Sunday is gonna be from 12 to 5. So those are additional hours, and you know, if we can accommodate, right, neighborhood meetings,
To suggest, that,
right?
right now, you can be a centerpiece in here, even more so than maybe this in here, because you're attracting all ages in here with things to do while they do meet.
Right.
That you do reserve some spots and advertise those for neighborhood meetings, free. Because you want the people to come to you, you want to bring your kids and all of those. You gotta put the cheese out there to get them to come there so they can see what's going on a regular basis.
And just a point of reference for that as well, our community rooms that we rent at centers, normally $20 an hour, and you get 25% off with your nonprofit.
I'm talking about free, Rich.
So, so what happens? How is the Brewer Center gonna affect the park, McAdams Park at all, is it? Like, are we gonna get new, playground equipment there as well? Or, and then what happens to this center? Is this gonna stay open?
Yes, it won't impact anything that's here. Part of what we did over at McAdams Park as well, we haven't been by there, we renovated the tennis courts that are there as well. Part of what we did there with our tennis league this year, so you'll see 2 new courts that are there that's been renovated on site. The pool just went through the master plan and was there to have that done, and we're doing some additional renovations to that as well for grant funding that we received. We just got new lights over at the baseball diamond, we just got a new scoreboard at the football, Barry Sanders football fields, so we're making improvements around the entire park.
But no new playground equipment or updated or?
That was not a part of it, but we did add 190 parking spaces over there for all the usage of the space.
Because the one part of the playground, it has, I think, red rubber, which seems to be fine, but then the other piece of the playground, there's old ancient mulch at one of the playground part of it. So could we get new mulch in that area or like?
That's something that we look at. Part of what we have over 122 parks in the system. So we have certified playground inspectors that go around each of those parks every year and do a consistent condition assessment.
Yesterday, there was mushrooms come, which is good, it's good soil then, good mushrooms coming up, but you know, it's just ancient mulch.
I would say that if you're looking at that particular park and looking at some of the ones in our system, there are some that are that need replacement before this particular.
Wow, okay, so the walking area at the park around the playground, that's gonna stay the same, no improvements? The lights aren't on yet, so we're looking for that to happen soon.
Lights and everything will be included in part of what we're doing. We're also doing some sidewalk that's gonna be part of the new parking lot that Councilman Johnson mentioned as well. So it will connect throughout the park where you have walking trails in there to different spaces.
Where are all those parking, how many?
190 additional spaces. So if you drive by right now, you'll see the outlines of the park.
Right off of Wabash, there's gonna be a new entrance that's there in this larger parking lot that's right in front of the building.
Okay.
Oh, like where that little parking lot was, it's gonna be.
Yeah, it's like 3 times that size going back west.
With the turnaround, like with the roundabout at the entrance of the center itself.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I want to go back to about when he was talking about free rooms at the Brewer Community Center, that you said there weren't gonna be any. But here's my question, at the Wichita Public Library, they have free collaboration rooms. So is it not, I mean, I'm just for consideration that there'll be a few of them that can be considered free? I mean, have you thought about that, or?
We do look at options for, like we said, like neighborhood associations is during the time frame that the center's open, and based on availability, we do that. One of the difference from the library and the park system, they don't charge for their program. All of their programs
I know.
are free of cost. The park system does have some cost recovery where we charge fees to offset some of the expenses for operations.
And the
So that's
library doesn't, they're just set up that way to where they don't have to worry about.
Central library.
Huh?
Central library, is that what you said?
Uh-huh, yeah, at the Advanced Learning Center. And they might have it at the other libraries too, but
It costs your libraries, whatever space. But
well, it depends on how big it is.
what she's saying here, you know, Reggie, I want you to be successful with
No,
what
no, no.
you want this thing in here. So when I say that into that, you're now becoming kind of, I say that closer to the neutral, nuclear center in here with a lot of neighborhoods and a lot of close proximity to us here. We talk about neighborhoods coming together, working together on a lot of these projects and improving it here. You know, one of my questions was, that was to you, Brandon, but you want those neighborhood associations to come in and get familiar with it, to encourage them to go back, take that message out. They can do it much better than you in here. They're actually using it, seeing it on a regular basis. Give them a common place where they can actually meet together in the space. So, you know, when once every quarter, you have a WIN meeting or something in there where they actually meet there and talk about their surrounding areas and how do we improve those things and get those resources out there. But right now, we're so scattered and trying to collect our efforts and do things in here. We're not able to do that. We're not able to mutually come somewhere else, and just meet collectively as that here. So you want that to become regular resource thing in here with all the amenities for the young and the old, those thinkers and those ones that you're trying to put in these neighborhood associations. So Brandon, I guess, and maybe you can answer this here. So we talked about 35 getting renovated in the next 10, 15 years or 15 to 20 in here. I don't know how soon that's going to start, how much conversation has been done to that here, but I don't know if it's ever been brought up or even thought about in here, bringing back up again, putting an exit off 17th Street in here, off 17th Street. But one thing, when I say that, if you're, most time you have to exit off 13th or 21st and wind your way back over into wherever you're trying to get to that portion. So easy access off of there to 17th, I don't think it's just one direction, gets you there pretty good. It's also encourages people to get off that exit because it's gonna be a live one in Wichita State, but they miss the Black community and most of the things that happen there. So we don't get the access of people coming out, come into businesses and stuff of that nature that might be residing in there without having to come through.
So in those meetings that I talked about earlier, I encourage you to show up and give that perspective. I can tell you they probably won't do it because you have to tear out several homes and impact your neighborhood again, just like urban renewal did, but feel free to show up to those meetings and let those folks know that that is all KDOT.
You know, I think that's in the wherever the council person is gonna be, I don't know when these meetings are gonna start, have that, but that's a conversation that should really be pushed out into the community about getting that portion. If you're gonna be a part of the community here, Wichita State's growing on both sides, 21st Street's growing here. You know, we talk about the houses and stuff that we're talking about here. A lot of these here are business districts and stuff, or lots, empty lots in here, little small houses. But if you can create a thoroughfare that you can get from one side of the city to others, and they have to go through your neighborhood, then they're more inclined to spend time, spend money, do those things. What we're getting right now is a bunch of duplexes on our main artery, 17th, 13th, and those, and that's just turning it into more rental property,
So
not
again,
business.
that is not conversation for today. That is, when they have those meetings, make sure you let them know. I will not be the councilman.
Okay, so when are those conversations think gonna start? I figured they would have started, they're gonna do all this, not just resurfacing 35.
Probably start next year.
So, what happens to this center, Atwater? Anything when Brewers open?
Nope. The center will function as it has been.
Okay, good.
We're open with the programming opportunities and, you know, bringing people in, but this center is gonna continue to function as it is in partnership with Lynette Woodard across the parking lot.
Okay, thank you.
To change the subject just basic, how involved are you in the Parks Department about moving the homeless people out of the parks?
So the Parks Department is the one that does the actual cleanups for the parks.
So you go, using Dr. Glenn Dow Park for an example, you go through there, you got people in the middle of the day, got tents up in there. You go right across the hillside, and you got a tent city there unless they tore it down in the last week. And this is, something's gotta be done about this, because we got kids that's in there playing constantly, and you can't trust every stranger that you see. And so I was just wondering about that. Do you check daily for the homeless people?
So the way that's actually, for the city ordinance that was just updated, that is all reported through the community. So if someone reports that there's an encampment that's there, it goes to a hot team. A hot team goes out and notifies them that the location needs to be removed. They send a notification to the Parks and Rec team, and then they have a 48-hour time frame to remove those sites. So we don't fly around to different locations and move that sites out. They're all complaint driven from the community for us to know when they come out and remove any sites.
Is it a priority on that?
It is, and just a point of reference, it transitioned to Parks and Rec in January. And since then, the Parks and Rec Department has cleaned over 125 encampments and over 225 tons of debris from different locations around the park. And if we were still using the contractor that we were using before, it would have been almost $165,000 for it to do it, and we were able to do it internally for a little over $50,000.
They seem like they moved the people from downtown, they moved them out in the surrounding areas, like my neighborhood.
So part of that process, when we go out hot, do give them resources that they can have to go to either the MAC or other locations for housing or services that they have that's available in the community. Then again, we can't make people take advantage of service. We can provide it to them. And within that 48-hour time frame, then we remove the camps from those areas. And we do have in the current municipal code that if there are certain locations where it's near playgrounds or near entryways or other places that we consider health and safety zones, that those locations can be removed because of some of the same things that you have.
Yeah, it's shocking. You said 125 encampments, 225 tons. It's 3,600 pounds per camp. What the heck are they putting in there that weighs over a ton, 1.8 tons per camp?
One of those is two really big ones that we have, the Sims Park location that we had, and then there was another location that was on IS 35 in the hydraulic area that was really big ones. So that factors into.
What weighs so much? Now, this is stuff people are carrying on their backs,
No.
pushing in their carts. No.
These are in.
What is it? Well, I mean, tell me.
It's like a tent city, like it was stuff, they had crates, they had electronics, I mean, it's a bunch of stuff.
They were setting up our actual living quarters to be able to have small communities in there.
How do you weigh it?
So once we load it up and we take it to the dump station, they go across the scale and they weigh it for each ton. We record that each time that we go into it. And in case you wanted to look as well, you can actually go on the Parks and Rec website and look under maintenance. There's a dashboard that shows each of the locations that we clean, man hours that we put in, what the cost of those along with it, when it was reported, and when it was actually completed. So we have that so that the community can actually see how active we are with doing the things that we have to answer those questions, like how soon they're.
Not the weight.
Has that on
Oh,
there.
it has that on there too, good.
All right, I did not expect Reggie to get all of these questions in Elisa. And we have another presentation, so one more question.
Will there be any opportunities or additional opportunities for employment or for youth with the programs that you talked about trying to provide in the new center?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that number one, obviously, we need staff, right, at the center itself. So we're trying to figure out the staff that is currently there, right? If they're staying on board, if they're not staying on board. And those are just conversations, right, to have. But in addition to that, when we're looking at recreation classes, there's two different ways that have those classes. You can either hire a recreation instructor, right? And they become a City of Wichita employee. They're paid through the City of Wichita. Or you can do contracts, right? So you can contract with somebody who maybe has a skill set in a fitness class or a child development class or has a pre-K background, right? Who can do these classes, and then there is a split, like a percentage split of the instructor getting a percentage and then the rec center itself getting the other part of it. When you do the instructor component of it, I'm gonna say this and it might be different, so please correct me if I'm wrong. There's usually not a charge for the space at that time because we're getting that split, right, with that specific person. If it is, say, somebody who's coming in and they are renting the gymnasium to host a basketball tournament for their league and doing out of state, they will pay the rental fee of the space itself in addition to paying some sort of percentage of funds that are coming in, right? So it's all kind of just dependent. So the rec classes, obviously, we will need instructors for. So again, it's either a rec instructor who's a city employee, or it is a contracted instructor that has a contract with the department for putting together classes that are specific to older adults, youth, teens, and whatnot.
And youth employment?
And youth employment, yeah, I mean, so I do a lot of internship programs. I believe heavily in getting youth engaged and involved in rec centers. So whether that's volunteer opportunities, internship programs. I love having students that, so even like in the When to Work program that's done through housing during the summer program, I more than often hire from those kiddos to come back into my program over at Colvin. Because number one, like they're engaged. Number two, they've been trained. Number three, they're interested. I love having students or staff members who are a part of the community, who have grown up in those programs, who have grown up in a center and are able to come back and, be a staff person, right? I mean, that's just getting involved and getting back into your community itself. So I love the idea of youth volunteers. I would love a volunteer component at Brewer, whether it be the front desk or assisting with different, special events and whatnot. In Burbank, that was my last job in Burbank when I worked in Los Angeles. I ran a 1,000-person plus volunteer program, and I assisted over 350 different stations, not only in Burbank, but in the Los Angeles area. So I provided volunteers my volunteers ranged from 4 years old to 104. We did different park cleanup days. We did family engagement volunteer days. We did, LA would do a Happy Birthday LA 5K run or 10K run in Los Angeles. We had 350 volunteers that just came from the City of Burbank volunteer program that supported that event. So I'm a huge believer in volunteering and putting volunteers in the center. So absolutely.
Sounds good, but they need a little cash these days.
Thank you guys so much. We really do gotta get to that next presentation. I'm sorry.
Reggie and Lisa, and I will say that the nationwide surge, you can see, Lisa definitely head and shoulders above the other candidates. I was excited. Funny thing is I saw her on the elevator afterwards and I already knew like we wanted to hire her, and I couldn't say anything. She did a great job. I think she's gonna do a great job over at the Brewer Center, and I know that you all will be excited to see when it opens what's gonna be there. Still a few surprises we haven't talked about. A few of them have snuck through without anybody noticing, so looking forward to when we open that up and you get to see them. It'll be a big deal. The other EOC I joked about earlier, so Julia from over there, me and Councilmember Holeyes, well, actually, I think all the council came through. But and Mayor. So we went over there. I had been to EOC before, but it was a great presentation, and thinking about the stormy weather season that we are now in. We were entering it at that point, just trying to be behind the scenes of everything they do. It's pretty incredible. They are busy all the time, and the funny thing that I don't think she will say is there's an area where they tell the elected to get out of the way and stay over here. And let all the people who do the real work, they get to work. But, you know, it's just incredible to see what all happens and everything we learned about how we really respond to emergencies in a big way, and her and her team and all the other folks, which I won't steal her thunder, but it was just a great eye-opening experience, and I wanted her to be here to talk about that. So, yeah, welcome.
I appreciate it, thank you. I didn't realize the significance of today when we got the schedule, but today is the 26th anniversary of a really bad tornado outbreak that hit Moore, Oklahoma, hit Hayesville. A lot of folks are thinking about the tornado that happened in Oklahoma because it was the most significant one, but we had a huge impact here in the Hayesville, Wichita area in 1999. So the significance of the day was just kind of like, oh wow, we're going to talk about severe weather and now the anniversary of those tornadoes. And then tomorrow is the anniversary of the Greensburg tornado, which I'm sure we all know what that was. So yes, just kind of this is the perfect time of year to be talking about weather preparation. Thank goodness today we got a nice, beautiful weekend ahead of us. So we can kind of be casual as we talk about it. If you didn't grab a yellow bag, you're more than welcome to. I'll go over what's in those goodie bags, but those are for you to take. If you know someone who could benefit from what's in there, take a call. I made 30 of them, so I've got more than enough for everybody. So like Councilman Johnson said, I'm Julie Stimson. I'm actually the Director of Sedgwick County Emergency Management. Been in the position just about 5 years now. Prior to that, I worked at the University of Kansas Medical Center in Wichita for 5 years as their emergency manager, safety and security. And then prior to that, I am a retired Air Force veteran, served 17 years and retired out of McConnell in 2014. Emergency management is something I feel like I built myself into. I have my master's degree in emergency management, and I'm finishing my dissertation this year for my PhD, also in emergency management. So something I feel very passionate about. But like Councilman said, we do a lot of things. We've got a lot of programs that most people have no idea about. And I want to introduce you to those programs because I think it's important for you to know what's going on behind the scenes with you guys in mind, with your public safety in mind. So talk about what we are, what our programs are, how you can get involved in your own preparedness in your neighborhoods, in your household, making a plan and then making a kit. Bunch of fancy words. What is emergency management? The important thing here is our mission statement is to build, sustain, and improve our capabilities to prevent the things that we can prevent, prepare for those that we know are going to happen and we can't do anything about it, reduce the impacts of those events that happen, respond and recovery through whole community, which means everybody, general public, all the way to the most senior electeds. It takes everybody to prepare for disasters. And we do a lot of planning, training, and exercises. So that's the stuff that keeps us busy when we're not responding.
Is there a reason why that kind of sounds like the Serenity Prayer?
You know, that's a valid point. Yes, and you can think a lot into that, absolutely. If anybody has kids or grandkids too, another thing we compare to is Paw Patrol. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that cartoon, but I'm like Ryder and all the pups are the support services in the community that come together. I have a department of 5. Myself, I have a deputy director, Cody Sharvett. If you've ever attended any storm safety classes in the spring, you may know who Cody is. He's been doing it for 17 years. Brian Ellis is my operations manager who controls that emergency operations center, that EOC that Councilmember Johnson talked about. Jonathan Schropper is a planner, and then I have Kenji Brooks that serves as my logistics and administrator. All of these programs keep us busy. We have the Emergency Operations Center. We're one of the few centers in Kansas that are ready state. We've got 21 workstations and computers that are always live, ready to go for our first responders and our recovery partners. So if a disaster happens right now, I push a button to notify everybody that's in the room. We just show up, we get to work. We don't have to do any kind of setup or anything. Public warning systems. Every Monday at noon, you hear the tornado sirens going off, making a lot of racket. That's us. Sorry about that, but it's a necessary evil. Public outreach, coming out to talk to folks in groups like this. Planning, training, and exercises. And then we have a lot of volunteer teams that we have really brought back to life in the last 4 to 5 years. The community emergency response team, I got a slide for that, but there's a flyer in those yellow packets. That is a passion program for me. It is 20 hours of training that we provide to the public that teaches you how to neighbors help neighbors. What do we do when our neighborhood gets struck and my professional responders are overwhelmed? There's a lot more you can do with a little bit of training, and then we give you some safety equipment to help you in those first few hours before I can get those fire trucks and ambulances to you. So I mentioned the Emergency Operations Center, and if I go too fast, let me know. I'm trying to be conscious of time a little bit, so I'm going a little faster than normal. That's a picture of our Emergency Operations Center. That is actually from the tornado that happened in 2022. We just had that anniversary, 3-year anniversary, just a few days ago. We have different levels. We're always activating on severe weather days, which means we're monitoring. We're working with our weather service partners, our local media, meteorologists, and we're monitoring the radars and the weather watches and warnings. That's kind of our level 3. And the full activation thankfully does not have to happen very often, where I've got to get everybody in the room if something big has happened. The last time we did do that was the tornado, and then prior to that was COVID. But fortunately, we don't have those levels of emergencies here too often. We situational monitor, we coordinate resources. So when you guys see things on the news and we've got 100 fire trucks and we've got all of this support coming in to help our community, somebody has to manage all of that, coordinate that. That's what we do. That is what this Emergency Operations Center is, resource coordination, keeping that big picture in mind. So my firefighters can concentrate on their responsibilities, EMS can concentrate on ours, but we're looking at the big need of the community.
So specifically, what's the trigger and who pulls the trigger? Is it you?
It is when our resources get exceeded. So we have what we call an incident commander on the scene, usually a fire chief that's going to be monitoring what do we need, what do we need, what do we need. We have so many resources here, which is great. So it takes a lot to exceed our resources. But if I need, for like a wildfire, for example, if I need a helicopter from the National Guard, we don't have that. So that's when we get involved. The incident commander will call us, activate us, say, hey, we need more resources than what we have. And then we keep local, state, and government informed. And like Councilman Johnson said, I don't want them at the scene when my responders are responding, when we're doing search and rescue, but they have an absolute need to know what's going on. Their community's been impacted. So in our Emergency Operations Center is a place for them to be where they can get that big picture of how bad is it? Do I have fatalities? Do we have injuries? What can I do? They're immediately going to be thinking about recovery. Something bad has happened. How do I get my community back on their feet? And then supporting local responders. That is our job. Whatever they need, we're going to make those phone calls. If they need meals, if they need porta potties, if they need mental health support, that is what we're going to do. We're going to make those phone calls and dispatch them out to the scene where they're needed. Public warning systems. A lot of folks just think of the tornado sirens, and that's actually the last thing I want you to think about from mass notification. We have Civic Ready alerts. I have another slide coming up, but in your packet is a flyer for Civic Ready. It is a free public subscription that you guys can go in and select what things you want to be notified of and how. Text, email, phone calls, all 3, one of the 3, it's your choice. And we're going to activate things when there's a tornado warning or flash flood warning or really significant severe storms. Your cell phones are going to start going off. TV is going to tell you about it. Your NOAA weather radios will go off. But you can sign up for those lesser things. If you want to know that there's going to be a heat wave coming, if you want to know that there's a water boil advisory, those are the things you can sign up for to stay informed of what's going on in your communities. We use local media, social media, NOAA weather radios, wireless emergency alerts, that's the cell phone alerts that go off. And then we do have the outdoor warning. We have tested every one of these systems, including the WIAs, and nothing is 100% effective 100% of the time. Our cell phones, that system has problems as well. We did a nationwide test. We were one of 40 counties that participated in it. And we had people inside the polygon that should have gotten alerts, did not. And people as far as 10 miles away did. So we know there's flaws in every one of these methods, but if you have multiple ways to receive that warning, you should know what's going on. Especially here in Kansas, we usually have a heads up when there's severe weather. We usually wind up now almost days in advance of stay tuned, there may be some things coming down. Now, the outdoor warning sirens serve their purpose. They are meant for anybody who's outdoors to go indoors, something is coming, seek more information. If you live by one, you may hear it in your house, but they are not meant to be waking you up in the middle of the night. They're not loud enough to get through the house noises and insulation. They are meant to warn those outdoors. And the NOAA weather radio, this is a thing that will wake you up in the middle of the night. And a lot of people get those alerts and it makes them mad and they turn them off and they never use them again. But it did its job. It woke you up, it scared the daylights out of you to get your attention to say, hey, there's a life safety issue coming, you need to pay attention. I mentioned those Civic Ready alerts, lots of things that you can sign up for outside of those really emergent life safety things. I know some cities, we've actually given them their own accounts under us where they can send out information like community bulletins. So like if City Hall is gonna be closed or if there's a significant road that's gonna be closed, they can use that civic alert system and send it out to you. You have to subscribe. We cannot opt you in. You have to go in either with the QR code or that website, put your information in, and then you'll get those notifications. We have several emergency committees to participate in. We have what we call an LEPC, Local Emergency Planning Committee, and this is the Right to Know Act. This is a committee of volunteers and community partners that this is more of what are the hazards in my neighborhood? What are the chemicals and what are the quantities of what is in my neighborhood? They meet quarterly. I know I'm never gonna remember this, but it's the third Thursday, second month of the quarter, 2 p.m. But this is all on our website. So if this is something of interest to you, you can certainly go back and refer to that. We do a lot of training. We have a grant that helps fund this community, and we do a lot of hazmat training with our first responders, so that way they are ready to respond to any kind of train accidents, chemical releases, things of that nature. CERT program, this is the program that I mentioned. This could be a benefit to you. We have the basic training. It's 20 hours, again, of helping you understand what you can do in those first few hours when something happens in the neighborhood. If you want to take it beyond that, we have an advanced team that we meet monthly, and we do more extensive training. We'll do stop the bleed training, we'll do CPR, we'll do search and rescue to a higher level. But this basic training, you don't have to do anything. You receive the training, and if I don't see you again, that's fine. You've got the skills and knowledge now to maybe help your neighborhood in times of disaster. When we talk about light search and rescue, fire safety, we actually have a little live fire where you can actually use a fire extinguisher to put that out so you can feel what it feels like to pull that pin and squeeze that trigger. Basic first aid, you can use that. Don't need a disaster. They need to know basic first aid. Accidents happen all the time around our homes. We teach you how to control bleeding and how to help make sure life sustainability, treating for shock. Okay. These CERT volunteers are force multipliers. I'm a department of 5. I have 500,000 people in 20 cities. I cannot do my job without volunteers. So the team, that's our first team here that did some training a few years ago. They become liaisons to our professional first responders. So when I can finally get a fire truck or an ambulance or police to your neighborhood, if there's somebody there wearing a CERT vest, they're gonna go right to that person and say, what's going on in your neighborhood? And we train you to how to scope your neighborhood, like how to triage things. So if you have a gas leak, you can teach you how to write that down. If you've got injuries, if you have a fatality, telling that first responder who's getting to that neighborhood that this is where things are at is huge for them to do their jobs. So you become a liaison between your neighborhood and that first responder. And then while we're not responding to disasters, we're assisting with large events. We're helping with traffic control and safety for Riverfest, the NCAA tournament. We're in parades a lot now. They're doing some outreach and getting folks to prepare. One of the things you might see in some of our parades now is we have an old Thunderbolt air raid siren on a trailer that we actually can push the button to make it go wee woo. We control the decibels, we don't make it go loud, only 2 seconds and then we cut it off. But it's a big attention getter to get folks to think about the hazards that are here in Kansas. A little tidbit of fun information. We have 4 of the oldest continuously operating Thunderbolt air raid sirens in our system that continue to work today. They're 72 years old and they are still working, sounding those alarms. We restored 4 of them to kind of preserve our history, keeping them in the system. And one of those is on that trailer. So it's actually model number 79 on the trailer, which was the 79th model to come off the Federal Signal Line back in 1952. So a little bit of information. We believe that we are the first ones in 1958 to push the button for a tornado. They were air raid sirens up until that point, and we've been doing it ever since. So kind of like that information. We also have Park City Station 32 has number 79 or 75. I'm sorry, 75, the oldest one. They got a museum board. It tells the story behind it, and we refurbished it. Makes it look really pretty. So just a little, take a visit, give it some love. Yes.
To get trained, what is the age limit that you can?
So right now it's 18 or up. We are working to create a teenage cert program when we're going into the high school, because when I need manpower to help with debris cleanup, I want those high school juniors and seniors who are full of energy and they're young and healthy. So we're gonna get them some training and develop a teen cert program as well, but right now it's 18 and over for that general public class.
I've taken your cert weekend 3-day class. It's pretty great. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot.
I appreciate it, thank you, and that's what I'm hoping to do more and more of.
I did the weekend one, 3 days.
Which city did you go to?
It was here, Sedgwick County,
Okay.
the extension office.
Okay, fabulous. And we do have classes. We've got one coming up in June in Wichita at the Regional Fire Training Center, which is kind of up by Spirit. And then in September, we've got one in Derby. We started doing some church certs. We just finished a church group cert where they had 20 people from their congregation that we met on 2 Saturdays. And we knocked out that 20-hour training in 2 Saturdays. So even though we do the 3 weekends, if there's a large enough group of 20 or more that want to do the 20 hours, we can be flexible with that schedule and accommodate accordingly.
You be able to do any refresher courses?
We're looking into that. We really haven't been, we just kind of brought this program back in the last couple of years, but we want to do even just the exercise, just to refresh people to go through. What we actually do as part of that 20-hour training is the last day we do, it's an exercise of like, we make a mock disaster scene where you come out of the building and we got a little fire right there for you to put out. We've got some boards that are down under a mannequin and you gotta save that mannequin from the rubble.
Or not.
Or not, yeah. We have a smoke machine that simulates a hazardous chemical, and we treat hazardous chemicals with a stop sign. Don't go near it, get away from it. And when you have somebody in there screaming for help, you want to go in and save somebody. And yeah, a lot of
Or
our
not.
it's like,
The only reason why I was asking is my wife and I was taking that course probably 15 to 20 years ago.
Yep. And you're more than welcome to join the advanced team. If you're interested, like I said, we meet monthly. There's no obligation for any of this. Even if you attend the monthly meetings once a year, that's fine. It's meant to just be a resource for you guys to be prepared. But yeah, we would love to have you, see you again. If you're more than welcome to attend any of our weekends again, or even if that Sunday afternoon, you want to see the exercise and participate, you certainly can.
When are the monthly meetings?
They are held, the second Thursday of every month.
You just did that, okay.
Yeah.
I forgot that quick.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And we try to rotate the location. Our goal is to bring this training to you too. We're trying to get it in all of our communities. We just had one in Cheney a couple weekends ago. So that is our goal. And we want to keep getting this training out because you don't have to have a disaster to use some of those skills. You can have a kitchen fire any day of the week. And that fire extinguisher can be intimidating when it's your house and you don't know how to pull and hold and squeeze. So we give you that practice.
Might want to get on that schedule at Brewer Center.
Yeah, absolutely. We will, all I need is somebody to kind of be a point of contact to help coordinate the location, opening the door for us, but we certainly love to come out, and that's our goal is to come out.
I think it'd be good. I think it's good for not only for you, but a central place, because you got a lot of neighborhoods in here. They're not prepared for tornadoes and things of this nature. So even those neighborhood associations around that would come there, I think it'd be a resource for them to come and get the training
Absolutely.
close by. And
And we can accommodate schedules, like ideally, like I said, we do a Friday evening, Saturday, half a Sunday. But if I got at least 20 people, we can flex. We can meet over 6 weeks, like on Wednesday night for the next 6 weeks, however we accumulate those 20 hours of training. Yes.
I noticed, how involved are you about the fireworks being shut off? Because right now, the WSU, when they got a game, they shoot fireworks off. It's a drought going on here now. And are you for that? I'm against shooting fireworks all year round.
Yeah, that would be something I would talk more maybe with the fire department if we're talking about like the fire concern. We don't get too involved with the fireworks or the fire risks.
But anyway, you aren't involved in it at all?
Correct.
Okay, you said your next training class is June?
June, end of June.
And what will that be?
That one's gonna be at the Wichita Fire Training Center, which is near Oliver.
Street.
Yep. And you do have a flyer in your packet that has the QR code and the webpage. All we need you to do is, if those dates work for you, is just go in and sign up for it.
Did you come out to neighborhood associations and talk?
So I can to have these kind of trainings, or if you wanna have a cert, I need at least 20 people to commit to that 20 hours.
I mean, just come and let people know about your program.
Oh, yeah,
A lot of
absolutely,
people don't know what
absolutely.
you're about. But every time something go wrong, we know what you're about.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I want to know who you are before there's a disaster. I want you to know who I am and my team is before a disaster. So when things happen, things gotta move quick, and I definitely wanna make sure you're as prepared as you can be. And that there's trust, that when we're telling you guys there's things that need to be done, that you guys aren't saying, well, who the heck is this person?
You have business cards with you.
I do, I sure do. Yep, I'll make sure you guys have.
Thank you, Monty.
It's been a while, so it could be that I'm not as caught up on the news as I thought, but like a mass casualty drill. When was the last time you did one?
Just
We did one, actually, last year, we had a full scale.
at Century Two,
At the airport?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
didn't they do it at Century Two?
Yes, so yes, thank you, that was the big news, we just had it,
A couple months ago.
yeah, an active shooter exercise, that was the largest full-scale exercise we've ever had here in Sedgwick County, it was at Century Two. It was large enough, we had FEMA's exercise division came and assisted us with it, so we had over 300 participants in that exercise.
Awesome.
Good things, lots of lessons learned, which is what we wanna learn those lessons before the real thing happens. But we had all of the fire departments, we had law enforcement, we had mental health resources, the Red Cross, everybody was part of that exercise. Yeah, that was huge, and that's what we're kind of doing, that's what's keeping us busy when we're not responding to disasters.
So how successful or not was that?
100% is successful, because we identified shortfalls in our plans. What we thought we knew when we physically went to go execute some of our plans, we realized that wasn't feasible. That was good on paper, but that's not reality. And that's our goal of exercises, is to identify those things ahead of time. If there's an exercise that went 100% smooth with nothing found, I challenge the exercise design. There always should be something that we can improve upon when we start to do those physical relocation of resources. And when people have to make decisions, that's when we need to make sure people are prepared. Great questions. I love the dialogue. So making a plan. We think we plan for tornadoes here in Kansas, right? We're really not. We don't care if a tornado happens, it doesn't impact anything. We're preparing for the disruptions. We're preparing for the power outages, utility failures, communication failures, that delayed response. We're used to calling 911 and getting something to our house within 5 minutes. That does not happen in a disaster. They get overwhelmed. Food, water, fuel shortages, how you receive emergency alert information, especially if you lose power, how are you gonna be alerted? Which is why I go back to having multiple ways to receive that information. Where's your safe shelter? Where's your evacuation routes? Sometimes you'll hear shelter in place for hazardous materials. That's different than shelter in place for tornadoes. Hazardous materials, we may be telling you to turn off your air conditioning, make sure you close your windows, maybe stuffing towels if you've got gaps in windows and doors. So being prepared for not just the tornadoes, but for all hazards and what those consequences are. Do you know how to shut off your utilities? If you've got natural gas and there's a natural gas leak happening right in your house, do you know how to turn that gas valve off? That just happened actually here in Wichita yesterday. We teach you that in that CERT training. How do you communicate with your family and household? Cell phones may not work, or if your cell phone is damaged. So in your packet, there is a ready to respond guide, and on the back of that guide is the place to write down phone numbers. I'm gonna do everything I can to get a phone to you so you can contact your loved ones, but if you don't know the phone number, that phone is doing you no good, and we don't remember phone numbers like we used to. It's all in our contacts. So again, I highly encourage you, get a disaster kit, follow through that guide, write those phone numbers down and put that in your disaster kit so you have them readily available. Even if you think you remember phone numbers, in times of crisis, don't trust your brain. You're gonna get overwhelmed and you may not remember your address. Yes, ma'am.
So I know to store water, like a gallon for each person for 2 or 3 days, right?
Yep.
What is the best container to store water in, and how long before it goes bad?
So general rule of thumb is you can get the gallon jugs or you can get bottles of water. We encourage folks, especially those who may have limited income, is you don't have to go out and buy all of it at one time and have all of this water and food, just a little bit at a time. Start kind of gradually adding to it when you're in a store. Grab an extra gallon of water and put it in your safe kit. The expiration is because of the containers they're in for the plastics. They're usually good for a few years, but we always encourage at least once a year, if not twice a year, going through those kits and checking those expiration dates. Use that and replace it with fresh as much as you can.
Okay.
So we have campaigns. We have a campaign in March. It's usually our severe weather awareness. And we'll tell people, hey, look into your kits, rotate that stuff out. And then in September, we have National Preparedness Month, where we tell folks again, take a look at your kits. Now that that season is over, do you have things expiring that need to come out and get replaced down the road?
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. And then that's part of it with your kit too, is what supplies were your household, including pets, need? I can tell you all day long what I'm gonna recommend, but I do not know the needs in your household. These disaster plans and kits have to be personal to your own survival in your houses. A lot of folks get too caught up with, well, FEMA says this or emergency management says that, but really, if you're on your own for 3 days without outside resources, what do you need? What if you don't have power? We'll go into senior care here in a little bit about relying on some sort of power. I do have in your bags pet preparedness, things to consider with your pets. Your dog or your cat may be the friendliest animal in the world, but when they're under crisis or their security and safety has been uprooted, they may be a completely different animal, just like we react differently. So there's things to consider, and if you have pets, highly encourage going through that checklist and having those thoughts and those ideas for your pets. Microchip is huge. If your pet is caught, we're gonna try to reunite pets with owners as much as we can. We've got special teams for that, but there has to be proof that that is your pet. Microchipping is the best way to do that. We're not gonna just give away dogs if people say, that's my dog. We need some sort of proof that shows that that animal belongs to you. Kind of talked about this already with pets, things to consider: food and water, crates, grooming items, collars, tags, disposable bags. The dogs are going to do their business and it needs to be kind of controlled. And again, mentioned photos for reunification. Things to consider with children, involve them with making a kit. My 3-year-old granddaughter knows a tornado spins around and knocks things down. But she knows if she hears that siren or she hears the weather alert, she goes downstairs. And we've taught her that since the day. So involve them with making a kit. Don't let them be fearful and hear rumors. Treat them, almost as adults when it comes to planning. But entertainment. Pack things in your kit with paper, pens, books, games, puzzles, Legos, something to keep them busy. They're going to be scared. They're going to be bored. And the more happy they are, the less that is on you as well. Headphones, favorite stuffed animals, and identification. If they wander off, we need to have, again, we need to get you guys reunited as quickly as possible. We need some sort of identification. That disaster kit is a perfect way. Throw a photo or two in there just to make sure that there's no challenges.
Okay. Girlfriend. Well, I mean, this is a lot of stuff. And you say a kit, it sounds like it would take up half a room. I mean, how big is your kit?
Well, I have several.
Okay.
But most of mine I have kind of spread out through some totes and backpacks. One thing I haven't talked about with the kit yet is you also want to make sure it's somewhat portable. So you're not gonna just want a great big tub of everything, because if I tell you to evacuate your home, there's a wildfire coming,
Right.
or evacuate because there's a hazardous material that's coming your way, you want to grab that and go.
But even all this is not gonna fit.
Yeah, and you may not
No
need
matter
all
how
of that.
big.
Yeah, that guide is meant to get you thinking about, a
Okay.
lot of that stuff you may not need. Again, that's why I emphasize, what do you need as a household?
Well, I could gather it up, because I look at it, oh, I have this stuff, I can
Yeah.
gather it up if I
Yeah.
need it, but to get it into one thing.
Yeah, totes and backpacks, it's not meant to just be, now you can buy, these little fancy hyper things that are like 72-hour go kit online for like $300. You have most of the stuff in your household and just putting it in that safe location. Yes.
So on the thing that you were saying about the amount of space a lot of these things take, there are some things that you can use to like shrink that size. And like water filtration systems, rather than carrying the water, like Life Straw, those types of things.
Yeah.
If there's anything that you would suggest more than something like that, that would be valid. But I know that some of them filter out primarily particulates, some of them filter out actual chemicals. There are like tablets and whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know what would be ideal, and I know that would probably change depending on what the actual disaster is. If there's like a chemical spill type thing and contamination from that is going to be different than if it's just like a tornado and there's debris places. So how do you be prepared for all of that in the most compact space is going to be the largest consideration.
That's a great question, because there is a lot out there. And some of it is expensive, and I'm not even gonna lie, there are scammers out there that'll sell you junk at a high price because they're gonna take advantage of it. Again, kind of really looking at what your household needs, what's your household comfortable with? I don't recommend that we all get all of these all filtration systems and these expensive things, because that risk is lower than the risk of severe weather knocking out our water supply, where you just need drinking water from a water bottle, or water boil advisories because water pressure has been decreased for whatever reason is more likely than water contamination. I'm not saying there's no risk, but when you're spending your resources to prepare for the most likely incidences, yes, you can get some of those filtration straws or maybe some of those filters. But there are some things that could potentially happen and those wouldn't even work. So again, you kind of have to figure out what you want to spend your money on and what the benefit is of it. So, we have a lot of like health fairs, and we'll have like Red Cross will come out and do some outreach too. Sometimes they'll have products too that even they may be even given away. Certainly take advantage of those things. I have my team challenged right now to build a disaster kit free of charge. We got a flashlight, we got a little push button flashlight from the Red Cross. We've got some water tablets that we got free from the health department. So the things are out there for creative, little G rings. Another thing you have in your pack is a whistle. So you have a free whistle. Whistles are important. If you're in your basement in your safe location, and I've got first responders calling out, they may not hear you yelling because all of that debris absorbs your sound. There's a video of some college kids in a dorm where the building kind of collapsed on them. They could hear the first responders calling out, and they were screaming at the top of their lungs, and the first responders didn't hear them, walk right on off. They will hear a whistle. So again, I make sure everyone, there's a free whistle for your kid. All right, older adults. Older adults can face greater risks when it comes to extreme weather, and I'm not just talking about tornadoes. I'm talking about extreme heat and extreme cold as well. Power outages and that kind of nature. You guys do have a pamphlet in your bags with power outages. Power can go out for any reason. It does not take a tornado or a big disaster to knock out power. But that can have serious consequences that you need to prepare for. Access needs for senior adults, making a plan and engaging a social network. Any medical conditions or dietary requirements, again, going back to make your kits and plans specific to your household. If you've got elderly with special dietary needs, have a backup plan in your disaster kit with those dietary needs. Mobility challenges. A lot of folks will say, oh, I have a basement or I have an interior room that I'll get to if the tornado sirens blow or my cell phone goes off. How long does it take for you to get there, or for that senior citizen to get there who may have mobility challenges? We try to give as much advance warning as we can, but you need to know when do you physically need to act to get to that safe location. A completed will. If there's a completed will, have a copy of that in the disaster kit. Pretty much thinking about if your day-to-day routine were to get disturbed, what do you need to continue moving forward? Specific accommodation, assistive devices, hearing aids. If someone is sleeping and their hearing aids are not in their ears, how are they getting notified that there's a tornado coming? We've got bed shakers for NOAA weather radios. We just need folks to again, have that thought, have those plans to make those things come together. So making a plan, we already kind of talked about, communication is huge. One of the best things to start doing to get responding and recovering is to talk to people and let people know who you are, what your needs are. But you need to have some sort of way to communicate. Senior citizens as well, or even folks who have routine medical treatments. Well, what happens now if you can't get that medical care that you're relying on? Work with your healthcare providers to help create that plan B. There may be other providers, there may be other things that you can do to prepare if that routine gets messed up. And then making sure someone in your support network is aware of that plan. If senior citizens live alone, have somebody have that a spare key. So that way, if they need to find you and get into your home, they have the key to go in, or they don't have to tear the door down. Let people know where your medical supplies are, their life-saving equipment. Make sure somebody knows to help you in those times of need. And then don't forget pets and service animals. Not all shelters will accept pets. Service animals are definitely accepted, but emotional support animals is the big controversy right now with shelters. So having a plan, consider asking loved ones or friends outside your area if they can help. Now, I will tell you, we've got several teams here that are specifically focused on setting up animal shelters. And their goal is to set them up near human shelters so we can help keep pets and humans close. But Fluffy is not going to necessarily be able to sleep with you on the cot in the Red Cross shelter. But again, something you need to think about when you're creating your own household
Fluffy would probably want to sleep under the cot as far away as possible from everybody else.
Yes. So a little bit more about the kid, and this may answer kind of some of your questions too, is what does your household, pets, if you've got kids, grandkids, elderly, all that needs to be considered with your household. Not just a tornado survival kit, make it portable in case you need to evacuate, and organize your key financial and insurance documents. I have another pamphlet for you in your bag that kind of talks about what are those critical documents that you're gonna need. One of the biggest lessons we learned in the 2022 tornado, that one that hit Andover, was insurance policies and how important it is to look at them and update them. 90% of our folks who thought they would be completely covered by insurance quickly realized how underinsured they were. Insurance policies in place for 10, 15 years, well, the cost of living is a lot different than that was, your possessions are different. Really important, financial losses for a lot of disasters is what catches people during that long recovery process.
Do you recommend doing flood insurance?
If you're in a flood zone, absolutely.
Well,
Yes.
you have to do it, I
Yeah.
think, by law, if you're in
Yeah.
a flood zone.
I do, because floods really, you can't really prepare for floods. There's not much you can do. And there's certain things that your insurance will not cover. If the flood is coming, I think it's from the ground up, your homeowner's insurance will cover it from the top down. So the key thing I can think about is just really knowing what your insurance will and will not cover. Read that fine print, ask your insurance agency those questions, because you don't want to find that out once a disaster has happened to your home. But flood insurance is important because homeowners insurance will not cover a lot of what you think they would with water damage.
I have a question. So on the important documents and so forth, I know you want to take them with you, but I saw something, yes, in the social media, but you could also put them all in your dishwasher, and your dishwasher's stay waterproof. I don't know. Is that a plan?
You can be creative, yeah, you can be creative. I mean, when when we do damage assessments, a lot of those appliances are perfectly intact. They may be tipped over, but they're not wet. So, I mean, you certainly can. I'm not gonna say that's a good idea or a bad idea, but definitely, if you have a tote though, and you can throw some of these documents on a thumb drive and just throw that in your disaster kit too. You don't need to have, hard paper copies of everything. And like I mentioned, kids don't need, bucket. How important is a bucket? Multiple purposes. One, you can use the bucket to put your disaster kit in. But you need sanitation, and we're gonna keep you hydrated, we're gonna keep you fed. Well, what goes in has to come out. A bucket will be a very good lifesaver. Throw some bags in there. That's gonna happen regardless. Like I mentioned here, kids don't need to be expensive. Add to it gradually. Weather radios, flashlights, multi-use tools, they make great gifts. And then 3 items of health and safety payers, nonprofit organizations, especially those disaster relief organizations. A lot of times they got swaggy stuff to give away. They put them in your kit. I'm hoping every one of you put your whistle in your kit, stick it on the lanyard, and boom, there's one of your items already done. You don't have to pay a penny for it. Support network. This is huge, especially for the mental health impacts of a disaster. We are very, very conscious now of trying to get mental resources out to the scene as quickly as possible for the survivors and for the first responders as well. We had all kinds of resources during the tornado in 2022, including even pet therapy. We had a little bunny rabbit in a stroller that came through the first responder command post, and man, did that brighten everybody's day. Except for we had one person allergic, she had to leave. But I'm just letting you guys know that mental health is certainly on our forefront of our minds now with disaster preparedness. But yeah, support network, friends and family, make them aware of specific needs you have. Same thing with your healthcare providers, especially if you have routine medical care, special devices, medications, making sure that you guys are planning things together. So bottom line, we are here to help communities, and I had that highlighted because communities, like I mentioned, is general public to the most senior elected. Tornadoes, disasters don't discriminate. It impacts everybody. To prepare for, mitigate against, respond to, and recovery from the impacts of all hazards, but it is everyone's responsibility to prepare. Like I said, there's only so many resources the government can do when we're at a large scale disaster. I show this as an example because this is part of the all hazards. We do a lot of training with hazardous material here because we know that's a risk. We've got railroads, we've got highways, we've got airlines. We know there's bad stuff coming through this community. Our hazardous material response teams train all the time to be prepared to handle those type of emergencies. Tornadoes, of course, we've got airports. We train with the Eisenhower Airport every year. We do a full scale exercise every 3 years where we light an old plane on fire and we treat it like a plane crash. One thing we learned recently is we got so hyper-focused that the plane crash would happen here, that when we had 3542 that crashed in DC, we had a whole different response. We went full into mental health recovery without ever having a response. And that was something we didn't prepare for, but our emergency operations center was the place where we brought in all of those partners that were impacted. So we brought in our mental health resources. We brought in the Wichita Chamber of Commerce, the Wichita Ice Skating League. So we could say, we know there's mental health needs. We're gonna proactively go out to you guys and have conversations. So not in our plans, but that is what the emergency operation was for, is anytime we gotta coordinate resources.
So in that situation, you have, what mental health services did you pull in?
So we had our ComCare folks, which is kind of the county's mental health kind of lifeline, if you will. We had Salvation Army, we had Red Cross, the South Central Mental Health Coalition. And there's actually a lot of private businesses too that offer psychology and mental health that we brought them into.
So did you reach out to the local families or that were affected?
So what we also learned is anytime there's a plane crash, by contract, the American Red Cross holds the ownership of that mental health resource. And what we learned differently is with that is they are not in the front with their vest saying, hey, American Red Cross is here to save the day. They quietly reach out to those organizations. So we brought in the Chamber of Commerce and Visit Wichita to identify the organizations that we knew were working really closely with the ice skating championship, because we knew they were gonna really feel some significant losses, more so than the general public. We identified employees at the Wichita airport that needed some support because that plane was delayed. And there was a lot of guilt with the employees about if we had just been on time, this may not have happened. So we recognized quickly we needed to proactively get out to those folks. In Trust Bank Arena, we reached out to those folks, the Wichita Ice Center, but it was the Red Cross doing that all behind the scenes, because again, people are reluctant to get mental health if we're blasting it all over the news. So it's treated a lot differently than what we see for other disasters. And we're still offering that support. There was just, I think, an event yesterday with one of the victims of that plane that had ties here to Wichita. And every time something like that sparks up, our mental health folks are going out and asking folks how they're doing. So I'm gonna end this, look at that, right at 11:30. I'm gonna end this with a really bad dad joke. How does a tornado tell time? Tornado watch. But that does segue. Watch is that time frame that comes hours in advance. That's the time to start looking at your disaster plans. No matter where you're at, we think these tornadoes and things are gonna happen when we're sitting at home. Not necessarily. What about work, church, school? Know where that lowest, most interior place is, no matter where you're at during a watch. When there's a warning, you need to execute that plan. Yes.
There's buckets that you showed that have wheels and handles now. There's luggage with handles.
Yep.
To store stuff there.
Yep, exactly. So if you've got empty luggage and you don't travel that often in your closet, put some disaster supplies in there, stick that in your basement or underneath the staircase, or if you have to seek shelter in your bathtub, just have it nearby. Absolutely, that's a great point. And then protecting your head, no matter where you're at. One thing we don't talk a whole lot about, but even a bicycle helmet can help save your life. Even if you're in your basement, you need to protect your head from falling debris. So there's our contact information. Again, we love coming out and talking to everybody. So if there are groups, homeowners association, church groups, school groups, and you want us to come out and have this conversation, give us a call. That is what we're here for. I have my business cards. Anybody who wants it, I will definitely give that out. Yes.
This is fabulous. Your presentation is fabulous. I learned so much in this, this presentation than I have in so many other things. So thank you.
You're very, very welcome. And I'm hoping these are skills you guys don't ever need, and but we're in Kansas. You can see more hands up.
There's over here too.
Okay.
Regard.
Thank you. And I hope to see some of you guys in that CERT training. That really is your empowerment. Yeah, let me get some more. I got some more in my bag. But yeah, the CERT training is really, really an empowerment tool for you guys to really prepare and be able to help your neighbors and yourself during those crises that happen.
Yeah, I just had a couple of things, and I'll be quick. One thing that I saw was missing in the package was having the ability to secure these resources. I think that would be important to add to the list. And the next one is, there was a massive power outage in Europe earlier in the week. And they still haven't determined what caused that. Are you all looking at that situation, and do you have a plan in place in the case of a massive 100% power outage where, nothing works?
Yeah, we've done
chaos.
these partnerships with our utility companies. We're actually looking at even the aging infrastructure. How solid is our infrastructure right now for even the extreme heat and the extreme cold that's happening? Cybersecurity is huge with our utility companies, and yes, we are training with them. We provide all kinds of classes for not even just our first responders, but our utility companies to attend as well. We have a lot of tabletop discussions to talk about, okay, the 2021, that really, really cold snap that took out Dallas and Texas. We take lessons learned from whatever happens across the world to say, okay, this happened here. What could we learn from this and what could we prepare for? Nothing is perfect. I mean, I can't say, well, if that happens, it'll be fine. There's going to be consequences. There's going to be hardship. But at least part of it is having those relationships and knowing that we can get people together to help solve problems. And that's the key of all of it, is having people work together to solve problems. Yeah. Some more. I saw some more hands up. Councilman Johnson. Thank you for allowing me to come out, and thank you for visiting our EOC. This is my favorite part of my job, and I want to do this more than anything else, especially when we're not responding. So thank you for your time. Thank you guys for spending your Saturday morning.
So, I think you all see why I wanted to have Julie here. 2 reasons: 1, great presentation, but also 2, while I was touring, I was thinking kind of the conversation we had. Really, neighborhoods need to hear this so that they can be ready to respond if something happens. So hopefully some of our neighborhood association members and presidents that are here can share that contact information and maybe have a presentation. I'm also considering doing one more kind of all District 1 neighborhood meeting where maybe we might invite her, but I think there's just a lot of great information that everybody needs to know and maybe not think about. I will say she brought up something I hadn't thought about in a while, but when the plane crash happened, I don't think a lot of people thought about the folks who actually worked at the airport. But as I was standing in that room, seeing like they all were impacted. It wasn't just the family, because families weren't there when I got there initially. But they were all just like, they were the last people to see the folks getting on the plane. So you don't always think about that. And when I walked into that room, I could see like on everyone's face that it impacted them. So just something that I'm glad we have those services and people coming together. People came together really quickly. After the tour, I now know some of that was the organizing from EOC, but also there was just a lot of people who wanted to support. So it's a big deal. This was, again, a great presentation. Always glad to have that information shared. I will be brief because I had a few things. I know there was a good conversation earlier. For all who followed all the unity in the community efforts last year, the Mayor's Youth Council is hosting one next Saturday. This is all led by young people. They only told us what they were doing and asked us a few questions, but they organized everything. So that's May 10th from 3 to 6:30 over at East High. So led by young people will be bringing the messages there of peace and nonviolence. So I'm excited about that. Again, they were inspired to do that. Also tomorrow, if you are a runner, there's the 5K. You may see me laying out on the ground because I'm not a runner, but I signed up. And then after that is Open Streets No More from 12 to 4 on the north end. So like 21st and Broadway over around No More. Definitely get out there. That's free. Now the food is not, you have to pay for that, but free event, get your steps in. I normally get 15,000 steps when I'm out there just walking around, but always a great time for Open Streets. 2 other things, as you may hear, I promised you I would say at every breakfast, I am the one saying we should raise taxes. I keep saying it, I've been in the news. We are in an interesting situation. I never thought we would have a real sales tax conversation. Sales tax is regressive, but it will raise a lot more money than raising the mill levy. So now I am saying we should do one, pick one, but we gotta do something. So, at the last workshop, I always say raise the mill levy. I know that that's unpopular. I know that I get the emails, not everybody's happy with me. But we started talking about sales tax. So just reference, if we raise the mill one, that's $5 million. If we raise it two, that's 10 million. But the 1% sales tax is somewhere north of $80 million per year. And it actually allows people who visit Wichita to also pay, so it's not just Wichitans that have to do that. I don't know if that will hit the ballot, how serious the whole council will be about putting something on the ballot to allow people to vote for it. But if so, it could help quite a bit with some of the CIP projects we have. CIP is our infrastructure. Most notably right now, police stations, fire stations, things that you see going up, deferred maintenance, that type of thing. A package could be put together. I think communities should give us a lot of input on what that might look like.
Does it have to be a whole percent? It can be a portion of a percent,
It could be a
right?
portion.
Okay.
I don't necessarily agree with the portion just because of all the needs that we have, but it could be. But that conversation will continue. You will continue to hear me somewhere in the media saying something about raising one or the other, and that I support both, but, pay attention to all of our budget discussions. Those things will come up. And there's even some conversation among some of my colleagues, if we did do a sales tax, does that allow us to make investments with that money and lower the mill levy? So there's a lot of combinations of things being talked about. I think we should stay consistent with where we are, and do one or the other, raise one or have a sales tax. But I truly believe the community should really input what they want to see, what projects, if we base it off the CIP, what CIP projects do you want to see, what other needs need to be met in our community. I am one that believes we should invest in ourselves, so that is one of those ways that we do so. We are a good city, we're on the cusp of being even better, but it's gonna take some investment. That's both public and private. Private sector continues to step up downtown, but in other spaces, I think we gotta do some more work, so. That's one item. I'll pause for questions, Mr. Roseborough.
Yeah, I just wondered, I might be wrong on this, but I'm seeing where you got feedback money, $16 million or something. On how much came to the county or the city. How come that money couldn't be used to offset this $4 million shortfall?
Which money are you talking about?
It's been on the news the last couple of days, and you got some money from somewhere, I think it was left over from COVID funding.
Are you talking about the opioid settlement?
That could be what it was.
There's real restrictions on that, so it has to be focused on basically prevention, maybe some intervention around opioids. It can't be anything else.
I just heard the thing about COVID funds, but it might have been county, not city.
Yeah, we don't have COVID funds, but
It might have been county.
Cause it was something, I know it was $16 million or something that wasn't used. And so,
I think
If-
that was county. He thinks it's county.
I don't know, it's been on the news several times. It's
I can tell you, we don't have the 16 million. That would be my deal.
But anyway, look into it, because it's out there, it's I just can't understand how we could go from this much of a downfall. I guess we'll get worse at 2027, 2026.
2027 is already projected to be bad. This current administration is probably hurting that a lot more unless policies get changed, but, or if we raise the tax.
So most people don't know Derby has a higher tax, like 8 point whatever.
So Wichita is actually one of the lowest in the region, really one of the lowest in the state. People just don't talk about taxes in that general way. Even adding the sales tax would still be lower than Derby. It would be under 8% still. Mill levy, I get, property owners don't wanna pay additional $11 or $23 a year. As a property owner, I like watch our taxes go up, but I also understand what that investment would mean. But the sales tax would generate a lot more, but again, if there's not ways to alleviate necessities for low income people, then they're just paying more money.
But with the sales tax, if the sales tax went up, what would it be?
1%.
So 7 point, or 7.5 now?
Yeah, minus the food piece, because the legislature.
Okay.
Not the legislature, the governor.
The legislature finally stopped playing games and allowed it to happen a year earlier. It should have happened years ago, but. So, yeah.
Every year, you hear no mill levy increase, everybody that runs for office. But somewhere along the line, you gotta pay for what you got. Coming down here to this meeting, where I live at, I'm dodging potholes in the street. You did too, coming down here. But dodging potholes, fix these damn streets.
The Northeast Heights, honestly, I mean, we talked about that some years ago, to really fix the flooding issue there is super expensive. Because of how it was designed decades ago.
They ain't heard nothing about that lately. What they do, put it on the back burner again?
No, it's not on the back burner. The focus was Blackley first before we got to that. There's 3 major flooding areas. If this administration hadn't frozen some federal funding, we might have got this other one going, but it's not on the back burner. There was a $500,000 effort that we were looking at doing, which after they looked at design didn't work, so they're still looking at a better way to address it.
I've done 30 years ago, when the Corps of Engineers came through here, they put together a proposal on how to help that flooding, especially in Chisholm Trail Creek. In here, the neighborhoods pushed back, said, we don't want to lose the trees and stuff in here. We're in a different time now, because there's much more construction uphill from us. And right there adjacent to us in here, the potential for flooding in here becomes even greater. So either you want trees or you want your house in here. So I think it's Corps of Engineers may need to be brought back in here and reassess that and present it to them.
Yeah, I'll tell them to do that. The plan I was talking about, and I can't remember if I showed either one of you, it didn't touch any trees. It was some curb work throughout the neighborhood, some major work on Oliver, some major work on Hillside.
Yeah, I saw the curb work, but the biggest problem we have with Chisholm Trail Creek is when it gets full, and particularly the ports that it goes through, those get blocked up with limbs and debris, whatever. It just bags it up to all the contributories, and contributories run through our neighborhood. So the big thing was trying to get the flow of water away from our neighborhood so that nobody would be affected. If you can get it there quick enough and it goes, it's good. But anytime something starts to plug up the bottleneck down there, if it stays on for a while, it's gonna eventually bag up to those, putting curbs and more stuff to dump it into it, but it has nowhere to go.
Yeah, I'll have them look back into that plan. The other big thing that was announced was we did get our $1 million match. We publicly said it, but we knew for quite some time that we were gonna get that $1 million, but since ink hadn't dried and all the commitments were solidified, we didn't talk about it until here recently. So for 29th and Grove, we were required to have $1 million. We announced in this room all the partners that helped us get to that. Again, it was always about having a plan and not just doing individual testing. So now that that plan is rolling out, there will be $3.5 million worth of grants that will go out to healthcare organizations to apply for, that actually do the testing. They will be charged with designing the screening and testing plans. Some of that may also include equipment purchases to do the higher levels of testing. That RFP will go out June 1st. It needs to be done by July 15th. All money will be out by, I believe, the end of October. So all those plans will be approved. We have created a committee full of neighborhood presidents, a couple pastors, and a couple folks on the state level to see what we're doing. They have some say-so in that. They will be also reviewing, the RFP just came out today, the draft, they're reviewing that. So again, it's not just us making the input, it is community as well.
So there's
And then the decisions,
oversight.
there is oversight. So the decisions being made on who gets funding, what that looks like, is also being made by community members as well. And then we'll see that plan go out. Some of the challenges and what I've been saying, and some of the more public disagreements have been, there were some who felt like you should just get a test paid for and that's it. And we knew that that wasn't a reality. You need annual testing. And if you do show any signs of liver and kidney cancer, there's higher level testing that you need to do. And you really should do that maybe more than once a year. So it was a lot to it, and we needed a plan to make sure that it was free or super affordable for people. And we were pushing for free. I just heard of someone who really made the point for me I don't know if they'll ever say it publicly, because I didn't tell them they made the point for me, but they basically said they knew about the testing, they went and got a test, and that test was free, but they realized they needed to go get an ultrasound. And they said, yeah, you know, I just had to pay $700 for the ultrasound. And I just froze like, that's the point. You have to pay that, especially people who are in the neighborhood, anybody low income, anybody who's been impacted by that, shouldn't have to pay that. You should be able to get tested as much as you can to see what you have. The challenge will be treatment. But treatment really comes down to, I believe, the people who did it to be paying for it. That's only gonna happen with the lawsuit, because they know about it. So if you go and say you have something right now, the check's not gonna be written. A lot of that time, that comes from court, but this plan was to make sure everybody could get screened and tested, not just 1 year, but in perpetuity. For years to come, you'll be able to go get screened and tested in these spaces, once they get everything that they need. Will be free for you. And again, we know people have lived in the Plume area, they moved outside of the Plume area. A lot of the difficulties we were facing were, is it boundary? If you live within this boundary, can you get tested? If you live outside the boundary? So a lot of discussions that went into making sure this was the most inclusive way to help people. So that announcement's happened, that's rolling out. We'll have other opportunities to learn more about it, but that is one of the bigger updates we got.
Here's my question. You said health organizations will be able to purchase equipment. Who is going to be the oversight on these organizations purchasing this health equipment to make sure that if they purchase health equipment, it is equipment actually used for the purpose of testing, rather than just saying they're gonna do it and then they don't, just to buy any old equipment that they feel like they need for their company? Who oversees all
So
that?
This
to make
money
sure that
is
they're just not-
specific to certain types of screening and testing, so it has to be that. They know that KDHE, the state and the county, because we are just a partner to the county. This money, every agreement was KDHE and Sedgwick County.
So do they have to, would they, well, I don't know if you know, but would they have to prove that they actually did some testing for these people in the area? I mean, I'm
Yes,
talking about people.
KEMED is the third party evaluator on that, and they are looking for those specific numbers. So the focus has to be 29th and Grove. All of the communications coming out from both the clinics that participate as well as the overall effort is focused on 29th and Grove.
And the reason why I say that, because I know like when a lot of people got those COVID funds and things like that, some of it wasn't even used to, help with COVID. They just used it any type of, some organizations used it any type of way they wanted it once they got the money.
Yeah, so the group that is helping to evaluate all the applications, like you have to prove how you're gonna serve 29th. And then there's the
But who's
reporting
gonna
after that.
enforce it? Yeah, it's one thing to say, I got a plan, who enforces that?
So then there's the oversight after that as well, because again, KEMED is looking at those specific numbers. And you have to be showing that your effort is that all the communications going out after that will be 29th Grove Courthouse.
And if they don't do it,
There's not a they don't. We're gonna be at that table.
do they have to pay the money back? That's what my point
The
is.
state legislature did not put that in.
Because people do what they want to do, break the laws and get away with it.
The legislature, if you go look through the proviso on what was passed, there really wasn't a lot of accountability in it. We put in all the accountability on our end. But it has to be focused on that. They all know that. We talked about it.
I'm just concerned about those people who say, I don't have to follow the law and you're not gonna make me do it.
I don't think anybody who is applying for that, because most of the folks that have even been interested are the people who do it now. You're looking at Health Corps, Graceman, Hunter, maybe Centerville, like those are the folks. It's not just anybody wherever. You have to really be serving in the community.
Are these meetings open to the public?
Yes. I believe they are. I mean, we've met at KEMED. It's kind of weird to get into where we've been meeting, but so that committee meeting, I mean, it's not like advertised out there like that, but like Ajane is one of the members of the committee, so she's in there. We talk through everything. I think she reports out. I'm not sure what she does with any information, but we're reviewing the RFP right now. Our next meeting, I don't think we've scheduled it yet because we wanted everybody to review the RFP. And then once everybody's good with that, we'll have another conversation. That'll go out, then we'll be reviewing those applications that come in. recommendations will be made on who should get funding, who should not get funding. Then we'll announce who got the funding, go from there.
So. I know this is a bigger question, but how, and I don't know all the details, I'll say that, but how come the railroad or whoever is responsible is not covering the cost of it? And then what about all the kids people that grew up there playing ball or living in that community and have already died from those type of cancers?
I don't think the attorneys for the railroad want any money paid that then shows some direct connections. I think exposes them financially to a lot. And as far as the people who have passed, I'm hopeful that people start talking to each other about that. Again, there won't be any money going to anybody without lawsuit. That's the only way that folks will be able to find some semblance of being made whole. Can't really be made whole when you lose somebody, but finding some way legally to get something from
So how come the railroad's not responsible for all of that? If it's the railroad for paying all the providing the cost coverage to all the tests?
Again, that goes back to their legal liability. I mean, I've had these conversations with them and their attorneys. They are focused on their remediation plan, it's $14 million, and I'm pushing them on that to get the extraction wells put in the ground this year. And it looks like it may not happen, but they know every time we talk, I want it in the ground this year, because the 10-year cleanup won't start until it's in the ground. City side, we're working through some of the approvals that they need. Some of that should be at council here pretty soon.
So it's just dragging out, right? It seems like.
They're working. They're just not going as fast as I would.
Yeah, and there's not consequences.
So all of that goes back to whatever agreements were made in 2003. And there's one agreement I've heard about that kind of leaves them not liable for some things. I haven't seen that yet. I've just heard about it. But a lot of what we are dealing with is decisions made back then, and we're just trying to rush everything now to make sure what's right needs to happen.
Is this money specifically designated to help this area?
Yeah. The proviso says that this is the focus of it, but it leaves it open to Sedgwick County. We are focused on this area.
So what is this comment about the money gonna be dispersed throughout the city or the county? Or did I mishear?
Might have misheard. It'll be distributed, but it's to the folks who win the grant process. So let's say the 3 clinics that are there, Hunter, GraceMed, and Health Corps, are the ones that get the grant funds. It would be distributed to them to implement their plan, screening and testing, some of it immediate, like the stuff that you're tested right now, some of it equipment, how all of that works. And I know that they all have been talking about how they can work collaboratively. That's been our conversation the last couple of years anyway, because while like GraceMed started the testing, if you weren't a GraceMed patient, if you didn't want to go there, you were like a Health Corps patient, like they worked on agreements with each other where everybody can work together. So they've been talking about collaborative efforts. I was just at the ribbon cutting yesterday for Center Wells reopening. They were talking about trying to find ways to help out with testing and screening. So it'll be distributed like that. It's not like distributed far out east, out south, like it's the area in the plume. That's all we talked about.
Well, okay, real quick, so let's, not directly, but somewhat connected with this here. So we sold the Hyatt back here some years ago with your money that came from the Hyatt. Someone told me that a portion of that went toward meeting our matching funds, contributing to that as well.
Yes.
I guess my question is we've gone through almost 2 city council representatives here during the sale of the Hyatt in here, and I'm not sure what our timeline to spend it. Is there a timeline to spend it? But what do you think approximately is what's left in that $1 million that I think each district got from the sale of the Hyatt?
That really depends. So the Hyatt funds that we used for the match were not district specific. It came out of transit. Transit didn't spend the whole $4 million. They had like 67. or
Any come out of that Hyatt funds?
Yeah, so that was Hyatt funds for transit. So they used $100,000 on it, $160,000 on it. The District One Hyatt funds, there's 72,000 left that will be redirected Tuesday, as Reggie talked about. And then it also depends on how you define it, because there's a fund for Propel that came from Hyatt funds that kind of didn't keep going in perpetuity. District Three had 200,000 that went to Save the Starlight. That money's being paid back, so I guess you could still call that Hyatt funds. I think every other district fully committed theirs. Before 2018, because I think $1 million out of District 6 went to Evergreen, $1 million out of District 2 went to Dock. District 4's money went to Piney Prairie Park. District 3 has several programs, District 1 has several programs.
So you're thinking about 72,000 is what remains of those funds for District 1.
Yes.
You know, I just like to see the three groups that started the regional testing on this 29th spill, I would just leave it at that. Because we got people now looking like they're trying to get pieces of money, when they really wasn't involved. What's our neighborhood? I had one report on testing, because that water they're pumping back in the Chisholm Creek, once it's clean, it can flow into my neighborhood, and we just not getting the reports I think it should be getting. And I know that the railroad, watch what happened in Pennsylvania and other places, they still haven't resolved those problems. So this is gonna probably take, my time, your time.
It will, we're gonna stay on, whoever wins the District 1 race, we're gonna have a long conversation, I'm gonna connect them to everybody that is speaking to them. So they can speak about it, make sure they stay on top of it as well.
And they'll, please get along.
Yeah.
And they should be.
Yeah, I mean, or just making sure they understand the people who don't wanna get along and then work around those folks. That's what I started. Any other questions? Next month, our June breakfast will be kind of a topic that definitely you talked about, Mr. Roseborough. We'll have the folks from the MAC board, multi-agency center, as well as the hot team. So we'll be talking homelessness and how we help people who are unhoused next month. So we'll see you all in June.
Okay, I will be.
Got it? Yeah.